My name is Lauren Mitchell, and I'm 33 years old. On paper, I'm exactly the kind of woman banks relax around and landlords bump to the top of the quiet, reliable tenant list. Stable job, strong credit, no drama that shows up on a background check. I'm a project manager. My whole life is timelines and constraints. People hand me impossible wish lists and unrealistic deadlines, and I turn them into color-coded Gantt charts and something that might actually work in the real world. I don't deal in miracles. I deal in trade-offs. For a long time, my personal life looked just as neat as my spreadsheets. I shared a 2-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend, Ethan. I handled the lease, the utilities, the auto pay schedules, the grocery list. He handled Spotify playlists and naming the plants, I guess. We'd been together 4 years, living together for 2. Long enough to know his coffee order by heart, long enough for everyone to ask when we were getting married, but not long enough, apparently, for him to answer a simple question without acting like I'd shackled him to the wall. The morning everything cracked looked unremarkable. I was in the kitchen, hair twisted into a messy bun, laptop open on the counter with my project dashboard glowing at me. I was frying eggs, mentally rearranging a shipping schedule, half listening to Ethan hum off-key in the shower. He came out in a towel, scrolling his phone, grinning at something I couldn't see. "What are you up to tonight?" I asked, flipping the eggs. It came out casually, the same way you'd say, "Hey, did we run out of milk?" Ethan froze. His shoulders tensed, phone still in his hand. "Why do you always have to know where I am?" he snapped. I blinked. What? "It's suffocating, Lauren." He dropped the towel, dragged on a t-shirt with jerky, angry movements. "You act like I need to give you a full itinerary just to leave the apartment." I set the spatula down. I ask maybe once or twice a week. It's usually because I'm trying to figure out if I should cook for 2 or 1, or if I should wait up. It's logistics, not surveillance. "No," he said sharply. "It's controlling. My therapist says that kind of tracking is toxic." There was the word, therapist. I'm not proud of it, but I did a quick mental search. Had he mentioned a therapist before? A name? A practice? A copay? Anything? I came up empty. "Ethan," I said slowly, "we literally share our locations. On purpose. You insisted on it last year during that true crime binge because you wanted to know I was safe." "That was different," he shot back. "That was about you. You checking where I am every time I breathe is about control." I stared at him over the pan. For months he'd been off, more protective of his phone, vague about his late nights at work, new emergency meetings that always seemed to happen right around happy hour. I'd felt something in my stomach twist, but every time I'd tried to ask, he'd called me paranoid. Now he'd upgraded me from paranoid to abusive. "Okay," I said finally, picking up my coffee mug. I looked at him for a long moment, really looked, like he was a stakeholder trying to sell me a broken plan as innovative. "You're right," I said quietly. His brows furrowed. "I am?" "You're right," I repeated. "If you feel controlled, if you feel suffocated, that matters more than my intent. So I'm sorry." Some of the fight drained out of his posture. "Good. See? You get it. And," I added, "I'll fix it." He nodded, satisfied, already scrolling again. "From now on," I said, "I won't ask where you're going or what you're doing. Your business is your business." "That's better," he said, though his voice had lost a little confidence. "And to make it fair," I continued, pulling my phone from the counter, "I'm turning off location sharing." His head snapped up. "What?" "If it's controlling for me to know where you are, then it's only fair you don't have to see where I am either," I said. My thumb hovered over the setting, then I tapped. The little icon disappeared. "There. No more tracking either way." "That's not necessary," Ethan said quickly. "I mean, I don't mind you sharing your location. It's just—" "No, it's only fair," I cut in gently. "You need space. I'll give you space. We should both have the same rules, right?" His face did a strange little flicker. "You don't have to be dramatic, Lauren." "I'm not," I said. "I'm being equitable." He watched me, uncomfortable, as if he'd set a trap and then realized he'd walked into it himself. "It's done," I said. "We're both free now." The next 2 weeks were educational. When Ethan asked, "What are you doing tonight?" I smiled and said, "I have plans." "With who?" he'd push. "Just people," I'd reply, stirring my coffee. "Don't worry about it." He'd laugh, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're being weird." "I'm just giving you what you asked for," I'd say. "Space. Less control. Isn't that what you wanted?" And when I asked nothing, when I didn't glance at his phone, didn't comment on the late-night showers or the missed calls from unknown, something like panic grew behind his eyes. One Wednesday, he came home near midnight, his shirt slightly wrinkled, smelling like cologne that wasn't his. A faint floral sweet scent clung to his collar. Fun night? I asked from the couch, not looking away from the show I was half watching. Yeah, he said too quickly. Just drinks with coworkers. Cool. He hovered, waiting. You don't want to know who was there? He tried. Nope, I said lightly. Your business is your business, remember? He stared at me, like I'd started speaking another language. Then came that Friday. He appeared in the doorway of my home office, leaning against the frame with a practiced casualness. So, he said, I'm heading out this weekend. Guy's trip. Oh, I said, eyes still on my screen. That sounds fun. You're not going to ask where. There was an edge to it. You said you needed space, I reminded him. I trust you to breathe air and exist in the world without giving me a spreadsheet of your movements. He rolled his eyes. You're being passive-aggressive. Actually, I said, I'm working. I don't have the energy for any other form of aggression. He left around 5 p.m., duffel bag slung over his shoulder, no details offered. He kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. As soon as the door shut, I exhaled, grabbed the suitcase I'd packed the night before, and ordered a rideshare to the airport. See, Tom, one of my oldest friends from college, was having his bachelor party in Vegas that weekend. I'd originally said no. Ethan had always freaked out at the word Vegas, like the city itself was a giant neon cheating simulator. But now we were doing this space thing. Now my location was off. Now the rules were the same. The weekend was exactly what I'd needed. Poker and too much buffet food. A Cirque show that made me forget my own name for 2 hours. Laughing so hard my stomach hurt. I stayed off social media, same as always. I wasn't hiding. I just don't live my life as content. On Sunday afternoon, I was at the airport, shoes off in the security line, when my phone vibrated. Then vibrated again. And again. By the time I got my shoes back on, I had 63 missed calls and over 100 texts, all from Ethan. Where are you? This isn't funny, Lauren. I'm at the apartment and you're not here. Your location is off. Answer your phone. I'm calling the police. Are you okay? I stared at the screen for a beat, the absurdity washing over me. I typed back, I'm fine, out with friends, home later. My phone rang immediately. His name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called again and again. On the 4th attempt, I answered. Where the hell are you? He yelled, voice high with panic. Why do you need to know? I asked sweetly. That's controlling. This is different, he snapped. You've been gone all weekend. So have you, I reminded him. You said you were on a guy's trip. I told you that, he said. You didn't tell me you were going anywhere? You told me you didn't want to have to report your whereabouts, I said calmly. I assumed the feeling was mutual. If you don't tell me where you are right now, we're done, he shouted. I looked at the departure board, at the gate number, at the strangers around me scrolling their own dramas. I thought about the last few months, the accusations, the gaslighting, the way he'd twisted my concern into abuse while guarding his own secrets. Okay, I said quietly. Silence crackled on the line. Okay, what? He asked. Okay, if you need to control where I am to feel secure, we're not compatible, I said. You wanted space. I'm giving it to you. He hung up. I got home around 10 p.m. The apartment smelled faintly like his cologne and takeout. Ethan was on the couch, eyes red, scrolling furiously through his phone. When he saw me, he shot to his feet. Vegas? He demanded, holding up his screen. You were in Vegas? On the screen was a reposted story. Tom's fiancé had tagged me in a blurry boomerang of our group cheering at a blackjack table. My hair was wild, my grin huge. Yep, I said, dropping my bag. I was. You went to Vegas without telling me? His voice climbed an octave. You went on a guy's trip without telling me where, I said. We're just being consistent. That is not the same thing, he sputtered. How? I asked. Because it's Vegas, he exploded. You could have been doing anything. Like what? I tilted my head. Drinking, clubs, random guys, cheating, he shouted. I studied him. Did you cheat on your guy's trip? What? No, he said, offended. Then why is that your first assumption about me? I asked. So you trust me, conditionally, as long as my GPS coordinates are boring enough. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. It's Vegas, he repeated weakly, as if neon lights annulled basic trust. Here's the thing. I hadn't done anything wild in Vegas. I'd played poker badly, eaten my body weight in crab legs, and watched Tom almost cry when his fiancée surprised him by flying in for the last night. But Ethan's reaction told me more than any location pin ever could. It wasn't about safety. It wasn't about control. It was about him wanting total freedom for himself and a tight leash on me. The next morning, Ethan tried something new. If the last few weeks had been distance and defensiveness, Monday was a full court press of domestic sweetness. I woke up to the smell of coffee and something buttery. When I padded into the kitchen, he was at the stove in joggers and a t-shirt, humming, plating my favorite breakfast like we were in some commercial for cozy couplehood. "Hey, sleepyhead," he said, all soft and sunny. "I made you avocado toast the way you like it. Extra lemon, chili flakes." I stared at him for a second. "Did you switch bodies with someone while I was in Vegas?" He laughed a little too brightly. "Come on, I can't make breakfast for my girlfriend." I sat down watching him. He sat across from me, reaching for my hand. "So," he said casually, "we're good now, right? Like, everything's fine." "Define fine," I said, taking a sip of coffee. He squeezed my fingers. "We can go back to how things were. Sharing locations, checking in, for safety." I raised a brow. "Sharing locations is safe now?" "It was always safe," he said quickly. "I just overreacted. I was stressed. I shouldn't have called you controlling. My therapist, I misunderstood her. She wasn't talking about you." There it was again. The therapist. "What's her name?" I asked, keeping my voice light. Maybe I should send her a fruit basket for all the chaos she inspired. Ethan's smile faltered. "That's private." "When's your next appointment?" I pressed gently. He stared at his plate. "I don't have to tell you that. Therapy is confidential." "Of course," I said. "It's just interesting that your therapist has lots of opinions about me, but no last name." He bristled. "You're twisting things." "Am I?" I asked, tilting my head. "Because from where I'm sitting, you used an invisible therapist to justify calling me abusive for asking what you were doing on a random Tuesday." He pulled his hand back. "Forget it. I'm trying here, Lauren." "So am I said. "That's why the location sharing stays off." His jaw tightened. "I told you, I don't mind knowing where you are. It makes me feel better." "And knowing where you are makes me feel better," I said. "But apparently that's toxic. So to avoid poisoning you, we're going to keep things equal." He opened his mouth, then shut it again, anger flashing across his face before he smoothed it over. Later that day, my phone lit up with a number I recognized but hadn't seen in months. Mason, Ethan's best friend since high school. The kind of guy who always had a beer in his hand and an opinion no one asked for. I answered. "Hey, what did you do to Ethan?" he demanded, skipping hello entirely. "I don't know," I said, spinning slowly in my office chair. "What did I do?" "He's a mess," Mason said. "He called me from his parents' place. Says you disappeared to Vegas like some sort of revenge mission." "I went to a bachelor party I'd been invited to for months," I said. "He went on a guy's trip and told me it was controlling to ask where. I respected his request. That's all." "That's different," Mason shot back. "He's a guy. Vegas is for the boys." I stared at my monitor, trying to decide if I'd misheard. "Run that by me again?" "You're his girlfriend," Mason said, like he was explaining gravity. "Girls need to know where their boyfriends are. It's like emotional security. But if a girlfriend needs that, she's clingy, you know?" "So when I ask where Ethan is, I'm controlling," I summarized. "When he asks where I am, it's just love?" "Exactly," Mason said, satisfied. "See, you do get it." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "That's not a double standard to you?" "It's just how relationships work," he replied. "According to who?" I asked. "Everyone," he said, and then, when I didn't reply, "Look, just apologize so he stops spiraling. You know he's sensitive." "I already apologized," I said, "for his feelings. I won't apologize for having boundaries." Mason made a disgusted noise. "Wow, you changed." Then he hung up. Tuesday, Ethan's mom called. I saw Mom Ethan's pop up on my screen and had a brief, childish urge to let it go to voicemail. Instead, I answered. "Lauren," she said, her tone already loaded. "What is going on with you two?" "You'd have to ask Ethan," I said. "He's the one who declared my asking about his plans was abuse." She gasped. "He told me you vanished to Las Vegas to punish him." "I went to Las Vegas for a planned trip," I corrected. "The same weekend he went on his guy's trip." "He is your boyfriend," she snapped. "He has a right to know where you are." "He said he doesn't need to know," I replied. "He said needing that information is controlling. I'm just honoring his philosophy." "That's different," she insisted. There it was again. That word. Like a magic spell, supposed to make all the logic dissolve. "How?" I asked. "Because Ethan would never do anything wrong," she said firmly. "You know how men are in Vegas." I smiled, though she couldn't see it. "I do. That's why it's interesting that your assumption is that I'm the one who misbehaved." She went quiet for a second, then said stiffly, "He's talking about taking a break. Is that what you want?" "If he needs a break from being held to his own standards," I said, "I'm not going to stop him." "You don't even care," she accused. I care, I said softly. I just won't negotiate with double standards. We hung up without resolving anything. By Wednesday night, the tension in the apartment felt like humidity, heavy, pressing, even when nothing was being said. He came home late again, around 11. This time, the scent of perfume was unmistakable, sweet and expensive, clinging to his collar like a fingerprint. His hair was mussed, his shirt half untucked, as if he'd tried to make himself presentable in the Uber and failed. Fun night? I asked from the kitchen island, where I was closing my laptop. Yeah, he said, testing the air. Just drinks with coworkers. Cool, I replied. He hovered in the doorway, waiting for the rest. Where, with who, until when? It didn't come. You don't want to know who was there? He pushed. Nope. It was a group thing, he said. We went to that new rooftop bar. Sounds fun, I said. Glad you had a good time. He stared at me, frustration flickering. You really don't care, do you? I really don't need to control you, I said. Isn't that what you wanted? He made a strangled sound and disappeared into the bedroom. The next afternoon, between back-to-back meetings, I took a 5-minute doom scroll break. Habit took me to Instagram, flicking through stories of people's lunches and pets and kids' art projects. Then I saw her, Brianna. I didn't follow her, I just recognized her. Tall, pretty, always perfectly put together, a junior account manager at Ethan's firm. She was in a dim club, colored lights flashing over her face, the bass so loud I could almost feel it through the screen. In the story, someone had tagged her and Ethan. The camera panned across the dance floor and stopped on them. Ethan had one hand on her waist, her back pressed against his chest, his mouth near her ear. Not, we bumped into each other in a crowded space close, but if this is just friends, I'd hate to see what more looks like close. The timestamp in the corner hit me like a slap. 2 weeks ago, Friday night. The same night he'd told me he was too exhausted to go out and needed a low-key evening with video games. I stared at the screen until it timed out. When he walked in that night, humming like always, I was waiting on the couch with my phone in my hand. Hey, babe, he said, dropping his keys. How was... I held up the phone and pressed play. The sound of the club filled the living room in tinny bursts. Our living room. Ethan's smile froze. On screen, Ethan laughed into Brianna's neck, swaying with her like they were the only two people in the room. Explain this, I said. He went red, then pale, then angry in the span of 3 seconds. You're stalking my coworkers now? It's public, I said. Someone tagged you and Brianna. Instagram thoughtfully served it to me. It was just dancing, he snapped. We were at a club. That's what people do at clubs. In a relationship, I said evenly, you tell your partner when you're going clubbing with someone you've spent months texting behind their back. His eyes widened. I haven't... Ethan, I cut in, tired. You talk in your sleep when you drink. You say her name. He flinched, and that was all the confirmation I needed. You're being controlling again, he said, louder now, doubling down. Reading into everything, making a big deal out of nothing. I can't even go out without you turning it into some crime scene. I went to Vegas without kissing anyone in a club, I said. You went to a bar 10 miles away and treated your coworker like a stand-in girlfriend. That is not the same, he yelled. There's that word again, I murmured. Different. He grabbed his keys again. I'm not doing this. I'm going out. He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. He came back 2 hours later, the same perfume clinging to him, words slurring faintly. You know what your problem is? He said, leaning in the doorway, eyes glassy. I have several, I said. Which one? You don't fight for me, he slurred. I stared at him. I'm sorry? You don't care enough to be jealous, he said, staggering closer. You're just calm. All the time. It's creepy. Being calm is creepy, I repeated. Got it. Brianna would be jealous, he said, almost wistful. Brianna would care if I went to Vegas. Then date Brianna, I said. He blinked, hurt. Maybe I will. Okay, I said simply. His mouth fell open. You don't even... I've been texting her for months, he blurted. She actually cares about my feelings. Good for Brianna, I said. I hope she has a good therapist, unlike your imaginary one. I could have slept with her tonight, he said, like he was dropping a bomb. But I didn't. Congratulations on basic loyalty, I replied. Or near-miss loyalty, whatever this is. His face twisted. You're such a... He groped for a word ugly enough and came up empty. I'm done. We're over. Okay, I said. He froze. Okay? I'll start looking for a new place tomorrow, I said. I'll be out as soon as I can. The drunk haze lifted from his eyes just enough to show panic. What? No, this is just a fight. You just broke up with me, I said quietly. I'm accepting it. I didn't mean it, he said quickly. You can't just leave. Watch me, I said. For the first time since I'd known him, Ethan had nothing to say. The next 48 hours were strangely calm, like the air right before a storm decides which direction to break. Ethan tried to act as if nothing had happened. He made coffee. He played his music too loud. He talked at me from across the room, using that brittle, fake-friendly tone people use when they're terrified the silence might mean it's really over. But I didn't bite. By Friday evening, I had signed a lease for a small apartment downtown and scheduled movers for Sunday morning. I was halfway through taping boxes when I heard the sound of keys at the door. Ethan walked in, and he wasn't alone. Trailing behind him was Brianna. She looked smaller in person than I'd imagined, nervous, clutching a sleek purse like a shield. Ethan had his hand at her back in a protective gesture that would have been sweet if it hadn't been so absurd. What's happening here? He asked, pretending at casual authority. You moving out? Yes, I said steady. I told you I would. Brianna blinked at the stacks of boxes, confusion flickering across her face. Ethan gestured towards me with that tired smirk he used when he thought he had the upper hand. Lauren, come on, let's be adults about this. Maybe you should let me keep the apartment. It's closer to my office. You'll find somewhere else. I set the tape gun down and looked at him evenly. The lease is in my name. I pay the rent. You've been living here rent-free for almost a year because you were between jobs, remember? Brianna's brows shot up. She turned slowly to him. You don't pay rent? Ethan's face colored. It's not like that. We split other things. Like what? I asked. Spotify? Takeout? He glared at me. Wow, petty. I shrugged. Factual. Brianna folded her arms. You told me you had your own place. It's complicated, he stammered. No, I said quietly. It's actually very simple. I picked up a stack of envelopes from the counter and dropped them on the table between us. All the bills. All in my name. Ethan's contribution this month was eating half the groceries and finishing my oat milk. Brianna looked like she'd just realized the floor under her wasn't solid. You said you'd been single for weeks, she said. Ethan's mouth opened. We were basically broken up. We literally had dinner together that night, I said. You said you loved me before leaving to get some air. The silence that followed was exquisite. Brianna's face crumpled, not in anger, but that slow, dawning humiliation of realizing you'd been somebody's side piece. She whispered, You lied to me. No. She stepped back, shaking her head. You lied about everything. Ethan reached for her, but she pulled away. I need to go, she said, her voice trembling. She left without looking back. He turned on me, eyes burning. Look what you did. I stated facts, I said. She drew her own conclusions. You ruined everything. I thought I was giving you what you wanted, I said softly. Freedom, space, Brianna. He stood there, jaw working like he wanted to say something sharp, but all that came out was a strangled noise. Then he slammed the bedroom door so hard a picture fell off the wall. Saturday morning, I woke to the sound of voices. 3 of them. I pulled on a sweatshirt and walked into the living room. Ethan sat rigidly on the couch between 2 older people, dressed like they were about to appraise a property, not have an emotional conversation. His parents, Robert and Diane Mitchell, looked me up and down like they'd been expecting horns and a pitchfork. Sit down, young lady, Robert said. I'm good standing, I said, leaning against the doorway. He frowned. My son tells me you're throwing him out. He told you correctly. Diane's voice dripped with honeyed disdain. Lauren, dear, Ethan has invested 4 years in this relationship. He deserves compensation. I almost laughed. Compensation for what? Emotional labor, she said primly. Domestic contributions. Career sacrifices. I blinked. He hasn't worked in a year. I do most of the cooking and cleaning. And as for career sacrifices, what career exactly? Robert's nostrils flared. He gave up multiple opportunities to focus on building a life with you. I turned to Ethan. You mean the 3 multi-level marketing schemes you quit? Or the photography business that never took a single photo? Ethan's ears went red. Those were real ventures. Funded by me, I said. About $8,000 in total. If you'd like, I can itemize it. Diane leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was negotiating a real estate deal. What will it take for you to let Ethan keep the apartment? It's not about money, I said. It's about the lease. It's in my name, and he can't afford it. Robert opened a checkbook, actually licking the pen. Name your price. I have a place already, I said. He'll need to find his own. He wants this one, Diane said sharply. He's established here. Established? I repeated. He doesn't even get his mail here. Everything still goes to your house. Ethan's mouth tightened. Diane's tone softened, adopting a motherly sympathy that felt rehearsed. You're being cruel, dear, after all the time you shared. I'm not being cruel, I said. I'm moving on, like your son said he wanted when he screamed that we were over. Robert stood, looming. You'll regret this. I know people. Is that a threat? It's a promise, he said. You'll never work in this city again. I work for the federal government, Robert, I said. Good luck with that. He blinked, thrown off script. They left in a huff. Ethan followed, probably expecting me to beg him to stay. I didn't. By Sunday morning, I was sipping coffee when the movers arrived. I'd already labeled everything. Bedroom, kitchen, office. Clean, efficient. Just like I liked it. Ethan showed up halfway through, reeking of last night's whiskey, his hair sticking up like static. He leaned against the doorframe, smirking. Remember when we first moved in? Vaguely, I said, not looking up. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. We christened every room. His hand brushed my arm. We could do that again. Start fresh. Forget all this nonsense. The nonsense where you emotionally cheated with Brianna for months? I asked. His smile faltered. It wasn't cheating. We just talked. About how much you wanted to be with her? I was confused, he said quickly, and now I choose you. Because Brianna ran when she found out you lied, I said quietly. His face hardened. You're going to regret this. Probably not. As the movers carried the last box out, he played his final card. I'm serious, Lauren. I'm not letting you walk away. He paused, eyes flicking toward me like he was gauging my reaction. I'm pregnant. I blinked, then actually laughed. You're what? He swallowed. I mean, you're pregnant. I stared at him. No, I'm not. He lifted his chin. How would you know? Because we haven't had sex in 2 months, I said calmly. You've been too tired or too stressed. Probably because you were saving energy for your late-night club friend. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Also, I added, you were drinking heavily 3 nights ago. You wouldn't do that if you thought I was pregnant. His face crumbled. I picked up my last box and walked to the door. Goodbye, Ethan. He didn't follow. For the first time in years, the hallway outside felt lighter. The first night in my new apartment was almost too quiet. No music blaring from the living room. No passive-aggressive sighs drifting through the walls. Just me, a half-assembled bed frame, and the hum of the fridge. I sat cross-legged on the floor, eating takeout straight from the container, staring at a mountain of unopened boxes. The silence was heavy, but not in the suffocating way I'd grown used to. It was peaceful, earned. I slept like someone who'd finally stopped holding their breath. That peace lasted exactly 3 days. Wednesday morning, I woke to a flood of notifications, missed calls, messages, DMs from numbers I didn't recognize. Friends, co-workers, even a distant cousin of Ethan's. Each one carried the same tone. He's heartbroken. He made mistakes, but relationships take work. You were so good together. I could almost hear the scripts he'd fed them. Poor, mistreated Ethan. The woman who walked away without emotion. I answered one message, my friend Emily's, and sent a single reply. He wanted space. I gave it to him. Then I turned my phone face down. By Friday, the campaign had evolved. Ethan started posting cryptic quotes on social media about narcissists, emotional manipulation, and healing after toxicity. A carousel of sad boy self-pity. For a while, I ignored it. Then a mutual tagged me under one of his posts, writing, "Didn't you say last month you were planning to date that girl from work?" The comment vanished within minutes, deleted. The silence that followed felt better than any defense I could have written. Saturday morning, my old landlord called. "Lauren, I need to ask, did you give anyone permission to change the locks at your old place?" I froze. "No, why?" He exhaled sharply. "Your ex is still there. Says he's your common-law husband and has rights to the apartment. He changed the locks yesterday." I laughed, an incredulous, tired sound. "We don't even have common-law marriage in this state. He's a guest who refuses to leave." "That's what I thought," the landlord said. "I'm serving him with a 3-day notice to vacate. Just wanted to check." "Thank you," I said. "And if you need proof the lease is only in my name, I'll send it." The next day, while I was unpacking, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Hey, it's Brianna." I hesitated, then answered. "Hey." Her voice was shaky. "He won't leave me alone." My stomach tightened. "Ethan?" "Yes, hundreds of texts. He shows up at my apartment, calls my mom, sends flowers to my job. I told him we were done weeks ago." "Did you talk to HR?" "I did. They're documenting everything." "Good. Keep copies of every message," I said. "If he shows up again, call the police. Don't try to talk him down. Just protect yourself. There was a pause. I'm so sorry, she said finally. I didn't know he was lying about you. I sighed. He lies to himself first. The rest is just collateral. Monday night, I was watching a documentary, finally starting to feel like a human again, when the banging started. Heavy, insistent, like someone trying to punch through the door. I looked through the peephole, Ethan, and behind him, his older brother Alex, both of them clearly drunk. Lauren, Ethan shouted, open up! I called through the door, calm. You need to leave. I just want to talk. No, I said. You want to yell, or beg, or manipulate, none of which count as talking. You ruined my life, he slurred. Your life was already a mess, I said. I just stopped pretending I could clean it up. Alex chimed in, swaying slightly. You're being a real bitch, you know that? He loved you. He loved control, I said quietly. There's a difference. More banging. Neighbors started opening doors, whispering. Within minutes, building security arrived. The two of them were escorted out, still shouting as they stumbled down the hallway. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Robert, this is on you. Ethan's in the hospital. Suicide attempt. My breath caught. But training as a project manager teaches you to verify before you react. I called the hospital he named. No patient by that name. Called another and another. Nothing. Finally, I called Alex. He answered on speaker, laughter and music in the background. Hey, Alex, I said evenly. Your dad says Ethan's in the hospital. What? No, he's at my parents' house, by the pool. Why? No reason, I said. Enjoy your afternoon. I hung up, screenshotted the call log, and texted Robert back with the image. Me. Lying about suicide is disgusting. Don't contact me again. Silence. Until 3 days later, when my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Tom. It was a screenshot. Ethan on a yacht, sunglasses and champagne in hand, arm draped around a man easily twice his age. Caption. Sometimes you have to trade up. # luxury life, # blessed. Tom's message was short. 2 weeks. Record time. I stared at the picture for a long moment. The waves behind him glittered. The caption screamed denial. Then I laughed. A quiet, honest laugh that felt like exhaling after months underwater. My old landlord called again a few days later. He's finally gone, he said, after I started eviction proceedings. Good. He trashed the place, he continued. Wine on the carpets, holes in the walls, broken mirrors. I'm suing him for damages. Want to join the claim? I thought about it, then shook my head even though he couldn't see me. No, not my circus anymore. He hesitated. You should know. He tried to forward your mail to his parents' house. We caught it, but that's a federal issue now. I blinked. He what? Postal inspector's handling it, he said. Just giving you a heads up. By the next morning, Robert was calling again, voice shaking with manufactured politeness. Lauren, please, drop the complaint. Ethan was emotional. He didn't realize forwarding mail was illegal. I didn't file anything, I said. The Postal Service did. Actions have consequences. What do you want? He pleaded. I want you all to leave me alone. Forever. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, done. Just call off the postal people. I don't control the federal government, Robert, I said. That's been your family's mistake all along. You think rules bend for you. It's been a month now. My phone's silent. My door stays closed. My new apartment smells like lemon cleaner and quiet. Sometimes I still catch myself checking the clock, thinking I should text to see if he's on his way home. Then I remember, he doesn't live here. He doesn't know where I am. My location is off. My boundaries are up. My peace is non-negotiable. 4 years wasted? Maybe. Or 4 years of tuition in a course called What I'll Never Tolerate Again. Either way, I finally graduated. And my life, my small, steady, quiet life, has never felt so free.